So, Robby, you will never guess who has recommendations for how cable channel MSNBC can recover from its current troubles. Keith Olberman, a one-time marquee name for the left-leaning cable network, abruptly left almost a decade ago. Now he's written a scathing piece in Variety stating that Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, quote, went on their show and welcomed our new insect overlords. Remember, the audience for Morning Joe went down rapidly after the duo went to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring of President-elect Donald Trump. Let's watch their explanation.
And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? Joe and I realized it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
So here's what Olbermann recommends. Quote, I mean, obviously you have to fire Mr. and Mrs. Scarborough. That said, he said a show like theirs should continue. At the time that Olbermann left MSNBC, he had the highest rated program on the network, and he was reportedly paid $7 million annually.
Oh boy. Well, if everybody started taking Keith Olbermann's advice, I would not have a job. He's called on the Hill to fire me.
Oh, has he? What was your offense to Keith?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I think not, offering enough prayers
Keith
for
Olbermann?
Dr. Fauci, I think. I got
okay.
myself in COVID jail, COVID prison, sent to the COVID gulag for questioning my betters. Yes, he is no fan of mine, and I am no fan of his. What a hysterical... I mean that in both ways. I find him hysterical. He makes me laugh, and he is possessed of madness and hysteria in terms of the commentary he used to do. Those were the days, though, just watching him freak out about every little thing. I mean, often things I also thought were stupid that the Bush administration was doing, but just getting worked up into an absolute fervor over it. Then Donald Trump happens, and all of his histrionics about Bush are now inadequate to him because this is someone that he views as even worse. And yeah, he just seems not well. And has he left? I think he quit Twitter for the 1,000th time to go to Blue Sky, the kinder, gentler site where my friend Jesse Single gets like death threats every day. I'm going to be doing a monologue on that soon. So
okay.
Stay if you're interested in what's happening on Blue Sky. I'm going to be taking a close look there to come. But yeah, Keith Olberman saying things.
I say as he does tend to do. I don't know if this is still available in the mists of internet history, but before I wrote for The Hill, I wrote a piece for Salon, which of course was editorially fairly in line with Keith Olbermann's views,
yes.
Excoriating him. He was still on the air at the time.
Oh.
Because what I was trying to separate out was the idea of genuine liberal influenced journalism from just hysteria and hyperbole and his propensity to bring on guests onto a show who only ever told him how right he was about everything, which was his modus operandi. I noticed that this piece that he has written is one of his recommendations is that MSNBC should bring him back, or should at least consider doing so, be reunited with their prodigal anchor, as he refers to himself. He also has a very peculiar detail in this piece. He is talking about how when he had his show Countdown, he essentially helped the network's fortunes immensely, and he talks about the people he brought on, including Chris Hayes, Rachel Maddow, etc. And at one point he claims that he stopped Rachel Maddow from jumping to CNN by giving her $437 out of his own pocket, which is a claim that I would like to know more about, and I would like to know what Rachel Maddow has to say about it. It is also a quite curious sum of money to list, and so I'm not sure where he's going with that. His argument, if we strip it from its sort of Olbermann-isms, his argument seems to be a combination that he says that primetime audiences for MSNBC, and I guess for cable news generally, want comfort food. So he seems to be suggesting that they should double down on a very liberal, very progressive programming, and that any pursuit of people who are more centrist or certainly centre-right is pointless. You could argue that in the cable news environment, we were talking about it earlier this week, how it is a shrinking audience for cable news overall, and there is a genuine business dilemma in mercenary terms about, do you just play to your base or do you try to expand beyond that?
The view is not necessarily wrong, because playing to rewarding, giving catnip to viewers who are hysterically freaked out about Trump in an Olbermann mode is what MSNBC knows how to do well. What they don't know how to do well is cater to independent thinkers, conservatives, even like populists on the left, people who are watching maybe our show, who are getting their news from internet, from content creators, from social media. They don't know how to bring in those people. So even though it would be a good business plan to move in that direction, they're probably just not staffed by executives who understand that whatsoever, and maybe shouldn't even try.
I mean, I'm not one to leap to the defense of MSNBC, because I did like it much more years ago when I thought it had more legitimate news from a liberal perspective, and I think that cable networks generally have moved in a more propagandistic direction. There are people at MSNBC who I do have regard for in terms of an individual basis. I think there are certain anchors that Eamon Mohadeen, I think, has done great work on the Middle East. I think people like Katie Tour are legitimate journalists, but they notably seem to get more criticism now from the MSNBC audience than more, I would say, propagandistic journalists. I also think it is not a problem confined to MSNBC in terms of playing to the base or offering red meat. Fox has been more successful at it, but dissenting voices on Fox, I think, are in very, very short supply, increasingly so compared to when you had like Hannity and Combs, for example. That just model doesn't really exist anymore.
I also don't think getting rid of Joe and Mika would ultimately benefit them at all. I think it would hurt them. They've damaged their brand with some of their core audience by doing this, Trump apology tour. I don't know that was a good idea, but also I don't think getting rid of them would improve the situation.
Well,
or maybe it would be fine. Some networks discover that swapping people out, you make the audience mad for a little while, and then they adjust to a new person.
I mean, I think it's often true that the network is often bigger than any individual stars. I mean, we see people who've been primetime cable stars go off and do their own thing, and the networks typically are just fine without them. As you know, I'm pretty critical of the Mika and Joe thing, just because I thought the speed of the flip made them seem fraudulent. It's not that I think there's anything wrong with appealing to the centre or having a more affable or civil tone. I just think you can't warn about the incipient rise of fascism for several years, and then when the purportedly incipient fascist person wins, pay homage to him by going to his Florida estate.
Should I do our outro in the style of Keith Olberman?
Please.
The worst person in the world will be revealed soon. It's you for electing fascists to take over in our streets. They're coming for us. I hear them knocking at the door right now. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any of our content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, too bad for that, because the Nazis have won and it is all over and will be shut down as we speak. Good luck to you. Godspeed.